What's up, everybody? Today we are working on my buddy Matt's go-kart. Okay, so what we're doing today is we need to align this sprocket better because it is aligned like absolute garbage. We need to put another bolt in there because look at how tweaked the motor mount plate it is from not having that bolt right there. We also need to replace the chain because this chain, although it looks like it's lubricated, it has severe lubrication damages to the sprocket and the chain, and yeah, it needs a new chain. Okay, so when you look at the sprocket there, you can see where the chain's worn the sprocket severely over the past, I don't know, maybe less than a week. Before, this chain had so much kinks that the chain, you couldn't even move it, it was so tight. And the chain was so kinked at one point, you couldn't even freaking move the kinks out with your fingers. And as you can see here, the alignment is garbage. Okay, now looking down from the chain from this angle, look at that right there. That's a missing roller. Some of the rollers in the chain are even missing from all the damage and wear and lack of lubrication. Keep in mind that is only one of the 6 or 7 rollers that are busted and completely missing. And without those rollers being there, there's a tremendous amount of friction between the sprocket and the chain. The chain was getting ridiculously hot. Like, it would burn WD-40 right off it if you sprayed it on it. It would burn the shit out of your fingers if you touched it. So yeah, look at that sprocket. It's just completely wore down. Alright, so let's get into this. We need to get this bolt out right here, tighten it back down, and see how the motor is going to sit, because the motor is actually sitting crooked from not having a bolt there. You also need to align the sprockets, put a new chain on it, and hopefully there is no more chain problems. Alright, I got some extra 420 chain that was on my Coleman and Baja mini bikes that I don't reuse anymore because I typically reuse number 4D chain when I can. It's a little bit stronger and it lasts a lot longer. God, I hate fucking changing chains. Every time I go to break a chain or work on a chain, it's always crusty and oily and dirty like this shit. Alright, so first thing first, we need to find a bolt so we can get the motor set and level at the plate again. Let's see if I got any nuts I will thread onto this one. I think we just found our bolt that we're going to use. Need something beefy like this and really long, because I don't know if you've seen, but in order to make this torque converter setup work on this Yerf dog, I had to use some 1-inch box tubing, make some engine risers, and then I put this steel plate on it, on top of that, which the motor sits on, which is from the old jack shaft that was pretty fucked up on this Yerf dog to begin with. It was the original one. I had this 7-inch torque converter pulley on it, so I cut the actual jack shaft part of it off, and I kept this plate, and that's what I used to lay over this 1-inch tubing, and it gives it about an extra 1/8 inch and it also gives a little bit extra support for the block. The only real cons doing this is you got less surface area that's clamping against the motor mount plate, so the motor can move a little bit more, but it shouldn't be a big deal if you have the right bolts, and I'm going to tighten it down. So if you're wondering why I'm not using this bolt and why I didn't just tighten it down, it's because if you look really closely, the threads stop right there, and the nut got cranked down, and it damaged that bolt quite a bit in the process of removing it. So I won't be using that anymore. And the washers are stuck onto this bolt, so I gotta take a pry bar and I'm gonna try to pry from the bottom, get this bolt out, and then put the new one in. Okay, I got the pry bar wedged under that bolt, the washer part of it anyway, and now I'm just going to tap on the end of it lightly with a hammer, and it should pop that bolt out. Okay, this is extremely hard to do with one hand, but it did pop out. I couldn't show it to you guys because I needed both hands. I'm doing this with my phone, but we got her out now. Alright, so we're going to verify this bolt is the right length. It is. So let's get some washers on this bolt. Okay, so I can't get that bolt in. So now I gotta undo the rest of the motor mounts and then wiggle the motor around and then try to get that bolt through. Alright, so I got the motor mount loosened on the left and I got that bolt through. So now I'm gonna put a washer on it, put the nut on top of it, and loosen the other two motor mounts and then begin lining up the chain. Alright, now I just gotta get the last motor mount in the back. Alright, so I got the motor to move around now, so now I gotta undo the lock collar right there, because the sprocket keeps sliding over to the left, and I'm trying to stop it from it using a lock collar, which probably ain't the best idea, but it works, so I'm gonna do it anyway. Okay, so now I'm gonna, instead of using an Allen key, because that's gonna take forever, I'm just gonna use a bit socket. The teeth on the sprocket are like so narrow, it's like pretty difficult to get the alignment right on this. But I think I got it pretty straight. I got the bolt in on the right where there wasn't any before, and it's actually sitting a lot more level now. Before, without that one bolt, the motor was kind of cocked up a little bit and angling the sprockets, and they weren't lining up the best. I got it pretty lined up pretty damn good for the most part. After this I gotta tighten back down that lock collar, tighten the 2 front motor mounts, and go on to look at the chain. Alrighty, so after probably 10 or 15 minutes of trying to tighten the motor mounts by myself, I finally got them. It's kind of a pain in the ass holding the wrench and then crawling under the go-kart and doing it at the same time, but I got it. If you put the wrench against the block, and whatever orientation you're going to be turning it, left or right, put it against the block, and then the wrench usually stays there, and then you can go under the go-kart and then tighten it with one hand. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to check how lined up the sprockets are, and then I'm going to adjust it if need be, and I'm going to tighten that lock collar down and then take it on a ride and see what it does. It's a 3/16 set screw, or Allen bolt I should say. Alright, we got a little bit, just a little bit more. Okay, and now I got the lock collar all nice and tightened down, so the sprocket shouldn't move. Well, this is lined up as good as I can get it based on all the other factors. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I can really do to the chain for now. I'll throw some WD-40 on it if I can find it. Okay, well, by the sound of that chain, we're gonna have to loosen it. I'm probably gonna put a half link in it. I can't even move that. That's way too tight. When I tightened down this motor mount bolt that was missing, the motor kind of went like that, toward the right, and I think it ever so slightly raised the sprocket and tightened the chain, so I'm gonna take care of that real quick. Alrighty, so I'm going to put a half link in the chain. Hopefully it's not too loose when I'm done. It should work. Alright guys, I think I'm going to stop this video here. It's been a pretty long video so far, so I'm going to stop here and I'm going to add a half link to this chain so it's a little bit looser, and then I'm going to take it on a test ride. And when I take it on a test ride, I'll shoot a couple videos of me riding around the yard on it. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.